Happy New Year, folks, and welcome back to WrestleRant, the first of 2016. I'm Graham Giason Matthews, and all December and January long, we're breaking down every installment in Royal Rumble history, as in the WWE Network. If you want to check out the reviews I did last year of the Royal Rumble, my reviews of the 96 Rumble, 2000, 01, 02, 04, 05, 07, 08, 2010, 2011, and those are all up from last year right here on WrestleRant if you want to check them out. In the meantime, though, stay tuned for all the ones I didn't cover last year, including today's, which I'll be talking about the 1998 Royal Rumble match, or the entire pay-per-view as a whole. So kicking off the show was Goldust and Vader, or the artist formerly known as Goldust, rather, as he was known at that time, with Luna in his corner, and a surprisingly entertaining match. Vader was a babyface by this point. He meant far less than he did in 1996 when he was feuding with Shawn Michaels over the WWE Championship, but it was still a very entertaining match with him in that role. Goldust was wacky, weird, bizarre, with the freaking look that he had at that time. I can't even begin to describe it to you, but it was a good match. It was a good little opener, nothing on the line, just a standard rivalry match that I thoroughly enjoyed. So good stuff. Vader goes over there. After that, a six-man tag team match with Max Mini, Mosaic, Nova taking on Beta Leon, El Torito, and Tarantula. Not the same El Torito from, now. It's a different El Torito. With Sonny as the special guest referee. A pretty throwaway tag team match. I have no idea what purpose it served. It might have been along the lines of was it the 97 Rumble when we had that random-ass tag team match with the Luchadors that I talked about in my last review? I'm pretty sure it was a 97 Rumble. It's been a while since I last watched it. It's been a couple weeks, so I've been watching a lot of Rumbles. But it might have been along the same lines where it was kind of promoting that promotion. I'm not really sure, but it was a very random throwaway tag team match with Sonny being the only real attraction in the match. And they were wise to add her, as opposed to the other tag team match from 97 Rumble, which just had a bunch of people, a bunch of no-namers that, at least WWF fans did not know. They included Sonny in this match to make it at least worth watchable, and it was worth watching to an extent for Sonny, but other than that, pretty throwaway tag team match with Max Money, Mosaic, and Nova winning. After that, The Rock taking on Ken Shamrock for the Intercontinental Championship. The Rock was the champion going into the bout, and this was a feud that would last until WrestleMania. And again, a pretty good match from the two. It was a lot more... It's weird. This match was a lot more satisfying than the match at WrestleMania. I always thought that was a disappointment. This was pretty good, though. Rock, in the end, had dropped the belt. Ken Shamrock won the championship. But in doing so, during the course of the match, The Rock had used brass knuckles on Shamrock and put them inside Shamrock's trunks. Now, why he wouldn't take them out, I have no idea. But anyway, Shamrock kicked out. He would pin Rock for the win. 1, 2, 3. Referee noticed the brass knuckles, disqualified Shamrock, and gave the belt back to The Rock and awarding him the win via disqualification. So a pretty good match, a very clever finish that I very much liked, building to a rematch at WrestleMania. What I didn't like was him doing almost a very similar finish at WrestleMania at 15 when Shamrock refused to let go of the ankle hold, and he again got disqualified and Rock retained the title again. So that was a bit overbearing. I would have liked if they just gave the payoff at WrestleMania. That's another... I already talked about WrestleMania 15 in that review. Or not 15, it was 14 rather, I'm sorry. WrestleMania 14 in 98. But still, a good match here though, good stuff. Rock's still the Intercontinental Champion with a very clever and well-booked finish. After that, we had a tag team match. The Legion of Doom contending for the WWF World Tag Team titles against the New Age Outlaws. Not a great match. I might have expected more from it just because we had two of the greatest tag teams of all time, the Legion of Doom and the New Age Outlaws. It wasn't a bad match. It was just kind of there. And the finish, the DQ finish with the New Age Outlaws using a chair or whatever to get themselves disqualified and retain the titles, was a bit of a letdown, especially coming off the last match that also ended in a DQ. So maybe if they spaced it out a little bit different, my thoughts may have varied. But even before that, though, the match really wasn't all that special. It was just kind of there. Not a bad match, and it got the time it deserved at about 8 minutes. But the finish left a lot to be desired. It was fine. They continued to build the feud. So again, it was decent, but I would have liked if they just either gave us a clean finish of some sort or just gave us a decisive winner, not do a DQ finish coming off of the latest DQ finish in the Rock Shamrock match, which was fine. But again, decent match for what it was. After that, the 30-man Royal Rumble match with the winner advancing to WrestleMania to contend for the WWE Championship in the main event. So you had a lot of good stories going on here, and that's what I've always said makes for a good Royal Rumble match, Battle Royal, whatever, is when you have a lot of different stories going on at one time. And that's exactly what this match had. He had a lot of members of the Nation of Domination coming in here, so it looked like they had the numbers in their favor. Ultimately, they would not win, but they had a good little feud going on, a good little storyline going on there. You had Mick Foley starting off the match with Chainsaw Charlie, otherwise known as Terry Funk. But he would come back another 2 more times as Mankind and Cactus Jack. So that was pretty cool. Or no, he started out as Mankind and came back as Dude Love and Cactus Jack. Or maybe it was the other way around. I'm not exactly sure. But it was pretty cool to see him come back. And that was something that had never been done before. Someone had entered the Rumble 3 times. It hasn't been done since. So a cool little story going on there with Mick Foley. And then Stone Cold Steve Austin. It was kind of predictable he was going to win the Rumble. But sometimes predictability is not always a bad thing. And that was certainly the case here. It was kind of foreshadowed that he was winning the Rumble. He was the sole star coming out of this, other than The Rock, and you had a couple different stars in there too. But especially down the stretch when you had people like Chains in there and Farouk and Savio Vega, it was pretty obvious that Stone Cold was winning. But again, not a bad story to tell. It was predictable, but not bad. He came in there like a house of fire, eliminated The Rock to win the Rumble, advance to WrestleMania to later on win his first WWE Championship. So good story there. In the main event, our casket match for the WWF Championship between Shawn Michaels, the defending champion, and The Undertaker. And a lot better of a match than I originally thought it was, because I know this was the match that kind of kicked off Michaels getting hurt here. I mean, it was one spot, a very scary spot, where it didn't look like it barely grazed Michaels' back, but it actually did a lot more damage than it looked like it did when you watch this match back. But Taker did a body drop. I can never pronounce that correctly. Back body drop. Say that 5 times fast. On top of Michaels, and he landed. The back of his back kind of graced the casket, the edge of the casket, and that would, like I said, kind of facilitate the end of Michaels' career for the next 4 years. So a very scary spot that would actually do a lot more damage than it would look like. He continued on through the match, and Michaels, despite being in a lot of pain, continued on, and they had a very, very good match, not only from a wrestling standpoint that was a lot like their Hell in a Cell match that felt like a pure wrestling match. This was also kind of along the same lines, but a lot of just, it felt like a real feud, like a lot of bad blood between the two competitors, and that's what I enjoyed about it. So a lot of great wrestling, the inevitable interference, which was fine. It worked well for the match with the members of the of Generation X coming down to help Michaels, which was fine. And then after that, we had Triple H and Chyna coming down to help out Shawn Michaels. And then Kane would come down, clear the ring. It looked like they had seemingly reunited. Brothers of Destruction at last have come together despite all their differences in the months leading up to this matchup. But in the end, though, it was Kane turning on Taker, putting him in the casket, allowing Shawn Michaels to pick up the win, before later lighting the casket on fire after locking Taker inside of it and seemingly burning him alive, setting up their WrestleMania match at WrestleMania 14. I always say 15, but it was WrestleMania 14. But anyway, a really, really good main event, putting aside the fact that it ended Michaels' career for the next 4 years. I mean, he would continue to wrestle, albeit not that much in the road to WrestleMania. But I thought this was a very good match, probably one of the better, if not best, casket match I've ever seen, because a lot of the casket matches that Taker had in the early 90s at this very same pay-per-view were awful. Like the one with Yokozuna was terrible. He's had a couple others as well in the years that preceded this match. So a very, very good casket match with Shawn Michaels to close out a surprisingly entertaining show. I typically do not like, not because I hated the Attitude or anything like that, but just because a lot of the pay-per-views during that time had a lot of questionable booking decisions, a lot of craziness, a lot of chaos, a lot of stuff that didn't make any sense. That was kind of the case with the 99 Rumble, which I'll talk about in my next video on Tuesday. But as far as this pay-per-view goes, I thought this was a very good pay-per-view, probably one of my more favorite all-around pay-per-views of that time period during the mid-90s, early 90s. I thought this really held up very, very well as a good to great pay-per-view event with an entertaining opener, a fine 6-man tag team match that was, not terrible, but just kind of throwaway and kind of pointless. Rock and Shamrock, good match there. Decent tag team title match. A pretty good Rumble with a lot of good stories going on there. And a great main event in the casket match for the WWE Championship between Michaels and Taker. I believe their last ever outing before WrestleMania 25. So it's pretty historic in that respect for the first time, or the last time rather, they would face off in almost 11 years. But on the whole, I give the show a thumbs up. Definitely check it out on the WWE Network, if only for the final 2 matches. But the undercard's pretty solid too. The Rumble's good. The WWE Championship match is great, I thought. Definitely exceeded my expectations. And the entire pay-per-view did. I guess I could say the same thing for the whole show. I thought it was a pretty good show and a lot better than I initially expected it to be. But that is the Royal Rumble 1998. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. As always, I thoroughly appreciate it. And you can check out all my other reviews of the Royal Rumble shows from earlier years, from either from last year, right here on WrestleRant, or in the last couple of weeks here on WrestleRant, from Royal Rumbles 98 to 1998. And in the weeks to come, leading up to Royal Rumble Sunday in just a few more weeks, I will have the rest of my reviews of the Royal Rumbles I did not cover from last year. So tomorrow, or rather on Tuesday, I'll be talking about the Royal Rumble 1999. But in the meantime and in between time, folks, you guys can follow me on Twitter at WrestleRant. Find me on Facebook. Give the page an old thumbs up at facebook.com/graham.jason.matthews. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. All support is greatly appreciated. As I said, I'll be back on Tuesday with my review of Royal Rumble 1999. Until then, guys, have a great and very happy new year. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch you folks down the road.